The hallway was quiet when it began. Quiet in the way offices get when most people are busy pretending to work. Emma Carter stood alone near the storage room, staring at a wall of old cardboard boxes stacked higher than her shoulders. The company was reorganizing again, and someone had decided these boxes needed to be moved downstairs before the end of the day. Emma had raised her hand without thinking. She always did. Saying yes was easier than explaining why she felt invisible at her desk. She bent down, wrapped her arms around the first box, and lifted. It was heavier than it looked. Dust filled the air, making her cough softly. She took a step forward, careful not to drop it. Her arms trembled, but she kept going. No one was coming to help. She already knew that Emma had learned early in life not to expect rescue. She was 29, lived alone in a small apartment, and worked in client support at a mid-sized design firm in Portland. She fixed problems, smoothed over mistakes, and made other people look good. Her name was rarely remembered, but her work was enough. Or at least, she told herself it was. She was lowering the box onto a cart when a voice came from behind her. That one looks like it's been holding grudges for years. Emma startled and nearly dropped the box. She turned quickly, her heart jumping into her throat. Standing a few feet away was a tall man in a dark jacket, sleeves rolled up, eyes amused. "Oh, sorry," she said, embarrassed. "I didn't hear." That's on me," he replied easily. "I should announce myself when people are lifting things that could break toes." Emma straightened and wiped her hands on her jeans. It took her a second to fully register who he was. Daniel Wright. She had seen him in meetings through glass walls, in company photos, once at the holiday party surrounded by executives. Didn't belong in the dusty hallway with old files and broken chairs. "It's fine," she said quickly. "I've got it." He glanced at the remaining boxes, then back at her. "Looks like a lot for one person." "I volunteered," Emma said, as if that explained everything. Daniel smiled, not in a way that felt polite or forced, but genuinely curious. "Then you deserve help. Mind if I join?" She hesitated. Saying no felt rude. Saying yes felt strange. Still, she nodded. "Sure." He stepped forward and lifted the next box with ease. "I'm Daniel." "I know," Emma said before she could stop herself. Her cheeks warmed. "I'm Anima." "I'm Emma. Nice to officially meet you, Emma." They worked side by side, moving boxes onto the cart, then rolling it toward the elevator. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, but it wasn't empty either. It felt like something waiting to happen. So Daniel said as they walked, "How long have you?" "Been here 3 years," Emma replied. "Client support." "That explains why everything runs smoothly," he said. "People rarely thank the ones who fix things quietly." She looked at him, surprised. "You noticed that?" He shrugged. "I try to." They reached the elevator. It was slow, as always. Emma leaned against the wall, arms sore. Daniel pressed the button again, as if that might help. "You didn't have to help," she said softly. "I wanted to," he answered. The elevator doors opened and they loaded the boxes inside. As they descended, Emma felt a strange awareness of his presence. Not intimidating, not overwhelming. Just there. Grounded downstairs, they stacked the boxes in storage. Emma expected Daniel to leave after that, but he stayed. He picked up another box without being asked. "You know," he said, "I spent most of my childhood in buildings like this. Offices, conference rooms. My dad believed work builds character." "And did it?" Emma asked. He smiled faintly. "It built expectations." She understood that more than she wanted to admit. They finished the last box faster than she expected. Emma checked the time. Still before lunch. "Well," she said, unsure what else to say. "Thanks again." Daniel wiped his hands and leaned against the wall. "Can I ask you something?" Her stomach tightened. "Kay? Do you ever feel like you're standing just outside your own life? Kay? Like you're watching it happen instead of living it?" Question caught her off guard. No one at work had ever asked her anything personal. She thought of her small apartment, her quiet evenings, the dreams she had slowly packed away. Yes, she said honestly. Daniel nodded, as if that answer mattered. Would you like to get coffee sometime? Just to talk. No work. Emma's first instinct was to say no. There were too many reasons. He was the boss's son. People would talk. She would feel exposed. But another part of her, the part that had lifted boxes alone without complaint, was tired of always choosing safety. Okay, she said. His smile was soft, not victorious. Great. He left soon after, his phone finally buzzing with the call he'd been waiting for. Emma stood in the storage room long after he was gone, listening to the quiet hum of the building. Something had shifted, and she couldn't name it. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Emails, calls, apologies to clients who never knew her name. But underneath it all was a steady awareness. Like a door slightly open, at 5:30, she shut down her computer and headed out. As she passed the front desk, she noticed the receptionist glance up, eyes lingering for a second too long. Emma didn't think much of it. She was too busy replaying Daniel's voice in her head. Their first coffee was simple. Small cafe near the river. No suits, no titles. Just two people sitting across from each other with warm cups and guarded smiles. They talked about childhoods. Emma spoke of a quiet home, a mother who worked nights, a father who left early. Daniel spoke of pressure, of being groomed for a future he wasn't sure he wanted. You seem very calm, he said at one point. I learned to be, Emma replied. It keeps things from falling apart. He studied her, not in a way that felt invasive, but attentive. You shouldn't have to hold everything together alone. The words stayed with her long after they said goodbye. They didn't rush anything. They met again a week later. Then again, walks replaced coffee. Conversations grew deeper, Emma found. Herself laughing more, speaking without rehearsing every word in her head. At work, she stayed professional. So did Daniel. They barely acknowledged each other in the office. Still, people noticed. Whispers followed her down hallways. Looks lingered. Emma told herself it didn't matter. What she felt was real. It wasn't about status or advantage. It was about being seen. But doubt has a way of slipping in quietly. One afternoon, while organizing files near the break room, Emma heard voices. Of course, she's close to him, someone said. Look at her position. Emma froze, her heart pounding. She knows what she's doing. Another voice replied. Smart, honestly. Emma stepped away before they could see her. Her hands shook as she returned to her desk. The warmth she had felt over the past weeks began to cool, replaced by fear. That evening, she couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, wondering if everyone saw her the way those voices did, as someone reaching for more than she deserved. The next day, Daniel asked her to meet him after work. She almost canceled. Instead, she went. They sat on a bench near the river, the sky painted with fading light. They're talking, she said without looking at him. I know, Daniel replied. They talk about everything. It's different when it's about you, Emma said. And me. He was quiet for a moment. My father knows. Her breath caught. What did he say? That it was inappropriate? Daniel said. It could damage the company. And what do you think? She asked, finally meeting his eyes. I think, he said carefully, that some things are worth discomfort. Emma looked down at her hands. She wanted to believe that, but belief didn't protect her job or her dignity. I can't be the reason you fight your family, she said softly. And I can't be the story people tell about how I got ahead. Daniel reached for her hand. She let him hold it for a moment, memorizing the feeling. Sometimes, she said, the right thing hurts. They sat there in silence as the sun disappeared. When Emma walked away that night. She didn't know it was only the first ending, but she knew deep down that the boxes had already been moved, and nothing would ever fit back the same way again. The days after that night were quiet, almost painfully normal. Emma tried to focus on work, stacking files, responding to client emails, and keeping the office running smoothly. She kept her distance from Daniel at the office, only exchanging polite nods or brief greetings. Every glance, every small gesture, felt charged with the memory of what had been there and what had been set aside. The air between them carried the weight of unsaid words, unshared coffees, and the soft tension of longing. Emma wondered if she had made the right choice by stepping back. But every time she saw him in a meeting or in the hallway, her heart reminded her that it wasn't over. Despite the silence at work, their connection didn't fully vanish. Daniel reached out through texts, carefully, respectfully. Not about work, but small things. A book recommendation, a funny article, a quiet check-in. Each message carried the warmth and familiarity that had grown during those days moving boxes. Emma responded cautiously at first. She feared gossip, the consequences, the inevitable judgment from coworkers and management. But as the days turned into weeks, she found herself looking forward to his messages, smiling at her phone in the empty office after everyone had gone home. Then came the evening they met again outside of the office. The Riverwalk in Portland had turned gold with the fading sun, and the air was crisp with early autumn chill. Daniel was already there, leaning against the railing, looking at the water. When he saw her, his smile was soft, reassuring. "I'm glad you came," he said. Emma returned the smile, feeling the old familiar flutter in her chest. "Me too," she said. They walked slowly, side by side, not speaking at first, letting the quiet of the river and the rustling leaves fill the space between them. Emma felt comfort in that silence. It was different from the office, where every glance could be judged, every interaction scrutinized. Here, they were just Emma and Daniel, not employee and boss's son. Finally, Daniel spoke. "I've been thinking," he said, "about how little time we have with people who actually see us, people who see the real us." Emma glanced at him. "I know," she said quietly. "It's rare." He nodded, running a hand through his hair. "I don't want to let this disappear because of other people's expectations. I can't control my father. Okay. I can't stop the whispers at work, but I can control what I choose." Her heart tightened. The temptation to step back, to protect herself was still strong, but the pull toward him was undeniable. "And what do you choose?" she asked softly. "I choose this," he said, looking at her with an intensity that made the world feel smaller, quieter, more focused. "If you want it to." Emma hesitated. She thought of the warnings, the gossip, the risk to her career. But she also thought of the boxes in the storage room, of the quiet moments, the shared smiles, the way he had made her feel seen when no one else did. Slowly, she nodded. "I want it too." From that moment, things changed. They met more often, outside work, exploring the city in quiet ways. They discovered small cafes, tucked away bookstores, and parks where they could talk for hours without interruption. Emma found herself laughing more freely, feeling lighter. Daniel shared stories about his childhood, about the pressure to follow, a path laid out for him, about moments when he felt trapped by expectations. Emma shared dreams she had tucked away, fears she hadn't voiced to anyone, the quiet longing for something more in life. Their relationship was intense, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet consistency of being present for each other. They became each other's confidants, anchors in a world that often demanded they perform, pretend, and hide their vulnerabilities. Emma found herself noticing little things. The way Daniel's eyes softened when he laughed. The way he remembered details she thought she had casually mentioned. The way he made her feel like she mattered, truly and deeply. But the office was never far from their reality. Whispers followed them, subtle glances, the occasional smirk from colleagues who seemed to sense something without knowing the truth. Emma felt the weight of judgment, the constant awareness that one misstep could unravel everything. One afternoon, she overheard a conversation near the break room. "She's dating the boss's son." One voice said, "I know." Another replied, "Smart move, honestly." Emma froze, her heart pounding. She backed away quietly, feeling exposed. The warmth she had felt over the past weeks felt fragile, threatened by the opinions of others. She returned to her desk, hands trembling, trying to convince herself it didn't matter. Well, it did. Every whisper, every glance reminded her of the risk she was taking. That evening, Daniel asked her to meet him at the park. The air was cool, and the river reflected the fading light. They sat on a bench, the silence heavy. "They're talking," Emma said, her voice tight. "I know," Daniel replied. "It's different when it's about you and me," she said. "It makes it real." He nodded, and then his expression darkened slightly. "My father knows," he said. Her chest tightened. What did he say? That it's inappropriate, Daniel said. That it could affect the company, Emma felt. A surge of fear. The one thing she had tried to protect, her job, her independence now, felt fragile. She looked at him, searching for reassurance. "I said no," he continued, his voice steady. "I won't end this." Relief and worry collided. Inside her? "But he could make it difficult for me." "For us." Daniel reached for her hand, but she hesitated. "I can't be the reason you fight your family," she said softly. "And I can't risk everything I've worked for." He squeezed her hand gently. "Sometimes caring means letting go," she whispered. They sat together as the sun disappeared, holding the quiet between them, feeling the ache of longing and the pain of doing what they thought was right. Emma walked home that night with heavy steps, aware that love was rarely simple, especially when other lives and expectations collided with it. Months passed. Emma threw herself into work, proving her worth without relying on Daniel, without leaning on the connection that had once made her feel alive. She noticed him less at the office, though they exchanged occasional fleeting smiles across hallways. Their absence from each other was painful, but necessary. Then came the unexpected news. The company-wide email flashed across her screen one morning. Richard Wright was retiring. Daniel, it seemed, would not take his father's place. He had chosen a different path. Emma felt a flicker of hope. Later that day, Daniel appeared at her desk, confident, with a familiar warmth in his eyes. "I'm leaving," he said, "but I wanted to ask you something." Emma looked at him, heart pounding, unsure what he would say this time. He continued, "No secrets, no pressures, no expectations. Just two people choosing each other. Will you come with me?" Her mind raced. She thought of the boxes, the quiet hallway, the small steps that had brought them together. She thought of all the moments they had shared, all the small gestures, all the laughter and quiet conversations. "Yes," she said finally, her voice steady but full of emotion. Daniel smiled, relief and joy washing over him. "Then let's start fresh," he said. That day they walked side by side. Not as employee and employer's son, not as people trapped by expectations or whispers, but as two individuals choosing their path together. The future stretched before them, uncertain, but theirs to shape, filled with possibilities, adventures, and the quiet thrill of love chosen freely. The office, the gossip, the fears, they all faded into the background. For the first time, Emma felt truly alive, fully seen, and genuinely happy. And as they disappeared into the city streets together, she knew this was the beginning of something worth holding on to. Something they had fought for quietly, patiently, and ultimately, together. The story of Emma and Daniel wasn't grand or dramatic in the way novels often are. It was built from small, tender moments, lifting boxes, sharing coffee, holding hands quietly on a park bench. It was love in the pauses, in the silences, in the shared glances that said more than words ever could. And it was theirs, finally, after months of longing, hesitation, and the courage to take a step forward despite fear. No one had expected the boxes to matter. But they had moved Emma and Daniel into a life that was finally theirs to claim. And that, in the end, was more powerful than anything else.